Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining our service. My name's Steve. I'm one of the pastors here on staff, and we are glad that you are here for our post show so we can debrief and unpack what we just witnessed, because it was a good service, right?
It was a fantastic service.
Yeah,
But before we jump into our service today, there's something that's super duper important that we have to address.
What?
It's probably the most important thing. It's somebody's birthday today.
Yay!
It is somebody's birthday today, and we have a very special guest that's going to be coming in and joining us.
Oh my
Oh, thanks, buddy.
Aww.
Love you, buddy.
Hey, look that way and say, happy birthday.
Bye, buddy.
This is the first thing he said to me this morning. He
Yeah.
goes, "Can I sing happy birthday for a video for my dad?" And I was like, "Sure."
Yeah.
Yep,
He loves the
exciting.
camera.
I know you look like you're 14, but
Yeah.
how old are you?
31.
31.
31.
Man,
Yeah.
you found the fountain of youth over here.
Yeah,
That's what
I sure
happens.
did.
Yeah,
Yep.
awesome. Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on the post show
Yeah.
today. We've got some things that we're going to talk about because it was a good service
Yeah.
from start to stop. Except at the beginning, we had a little bit of a lighting malfunction. We don't want to call that out, but it happens. Sometimes
sure.
there's little gremlins in our
Adds to the
systems,
charm.
and we deal with it and we move on.
I thought it was on purpose.
You thought the darkness?
Yeah,
was,
I thought it was on purpose. Yeah, I thought it was on purpose. I was like, oh, that's new. Cool.
Yeah.
I was like,
was on purpose.
Sometimes-
everyone.
Things happen.
yeah.
It just happens. It's all right. So let's go jump into this. What impacted you in our service this morning? Could be anything.
Kind of the beginning when he was telling about the whole, like, not, like, interaction of when he was telling his service, when Dave was saying, like, he thought no one was listening and all that. Because, like, when I'm talking to my guest service people, when we have our meetings and all that, I feel the same way. I'm like, oh, they're not really paying attention and all that. And then coming to realize, like, at the end, everyone was asking questions, and I was like, oh, I guess they were paying attention. And I guess, yeah, just, you always self-doubt yourself when you're talking to other people. So, yeah, it's like, oh, okay, I'm not the only one who does that.
And that was a great way to start off that little story, too, with this is the worst sermon ever.
Yeah.
And we're like, wait, are we talking about the one that you're talking about right now? Like, are we getting into this?
Yeah, I thought that too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, oh, great. This is going to be fun.
Yep. Nothing like showing up to church and hearing the first things out of the preacher is, this is the worst sermon ever. No, but that was good. That was good. Yeah. Never knowing who actually is listening and who can be impacted from that. What about you guys? Anything that impacted you from this morning?
For me, I think it was the second story that he shared about, I don't remember her name, but when she went in hiking or something.
Oh, yeah.
That girl.
Yeah.
That girl. And just when he was talking about it in this whole, like where she was, like, fighting her demons and all that stuff, where I was just like, oh, like, that's intense. And it's like sometimes those, like, real, just not pretty, like, horrible stories are what can impact the people, like, the most, because then it's like, oh, I'm not alone in feeling like everything is just horrible, or I can't get a grip on anything. Like, there's so many stories that people just don't share because, like, they're not the pretty ones. They're not the ones that maybe make yourself look the best.
Right.
But sometimes those are the ones that can impact people to go hiking or
They're not the
anything.
Facebook stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great point of bringing up stories that sometimes make you look worse off. Because I think Dave even mentioned this. We all want to be the heroes, right, in the story. And sometimes that journey to be actually becoming the hero really takes us into some of those valleys. So, good point. Good point. Gary, what about you?
So I was glad to hear the first part, and the freeing part of that story for me is the powerlessness. I have no power, and as long as I let God's power flow through me, I don't have to worry. It's really freeing to accept how small I am and how big He is. It takes a lot of stress out of my life if I can just keep that in mind. So I appreciated that.
Yeah. Do you feel like that mind perspective has shifted for you over the years? Do you think you always kind of felt that way?
No, I absolutely did not. And so one of my pastors in my previous life said one of his sayings was, sometimes God puts you flat on your back so you have no choice but to look up. And that happened to me. And it was during that period that I learned I have to keep learning it every day, but how to let go and let God. And it took a lot of stress out of my life once I learned that.
Yeah. That's so true. Sometimes tragedy or really a difficult circumstance can refocus and reforce us to have that perspective.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think the service was good from start to stop. I love watching my team. Usually I'm up on stage worshiping, leading the worship, but I love it when I can see my team takes charge and step up and do it, and they sounded great, and everything was good.
They're
So,
fantastic.
Yep.
yeah, that was good. Well, today was all about storytelling. That was kind of the theme. But what is your favorite style of storytelling? Because there's different ways that we receive and we absorb stories. So what is your favorite style of storytelling? That maybe you like to do or maybe you like to receive?
Well, as was said earlier, for me, I'm a very touchy-feely person, and that has been somewhat of a laughable thing in my business career because people, type A personalities don't like that. But I just, as you said earlier, I like the stories where you tell me something that really is true for you, something that was impactful for you, something maybe that was challenging and difficult and doesn't necessarily put you in the right light, because it makes me feel close to you. It makes me feel like you're trusting me with a part of you.
Yeah.
So that's my favorite type.
Yeah, that vulnerable storytelling.
Yes.
Yeah. What about you?
I like the past history stuff. Like, for instance, my grandpa, he'd tell me things like what he did when he was a child, or like when he went into Vietnam. He'd tell me stories about that. Or even now, like with my son, I'd tell him what I've experienced. Just the experience of that always it shows them what to do, like what you should do and what you shouldn't do in life.
So historical telling, you like that? Do you like our movies or like TV series? Like, do those? Is that a big impact?
Yeah,
for you?
I love like when I was a child, we always went to every time we went on vacation, we always went to like a historical place. Like that was my number one thing. Like even today, I even say when we go on vacation, we have to go to a historical place. Like our last vacation, we went to Pennsylvania. I had to go see the Liberty Bell.
Yeah.
And then
what's your favorite places you've ever been to historically?
Probably Fort Bragg or Fort, but basically all the forts, like Fort Custer, the Battle of Gettysburg. That was pretty cool. It's kind of chilling too, but especially at night. It was pretty cool. Like just knowing all the things that happened there.
It's pretty mind opening.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you been to any place historical? Like, seen anything cool in our country or out around the world?
You've taken me.
I know. Well, seeing that you're my daughter, we kind of go to the same place. Or you've only.
You mean wherever we've ended up in the car?
I mean, because we've been to DC. We've seen
Yeah.
some of the stuff in DC. We've gone to the 9/11 museum.
Yes. Yeah, that was
in New
pretty
York.
cool.
That was really impactful. And that type of storytelling too, through the historical lens,
Yeah.
when you can. Not just hear about it and not just kind of see it from afar, but see it up close, almost get your hands on it. Like there's something about the tangibility of seeing it that brings it to
I
life.
think it's funny how you mentioned 9/11 because just Friday, a couple guys from work, they're way younger than me, and we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, I was in second grade, and I remember that. I remember everything, every detail of when it happened and everything. And they're like, it's crazy because I was only 6, and they're like, how do you remember that? I was like, I don't know, it's just something you remember.
Yeah, there's big moments in life that have that impact, and that definitely was one for everybody who can remember it. That was a major deal.
Yep.
Yeah. Where were you when it happened?
I was at work, and the whole plant shut down. and wherever there were TV screens, it was. I worked for a man who was just an amazing person, as you know who he was, and very strong Christian. And everything shut down. You know, there was 250 people in the plant, and nobody was working, and we were trying to find TV screens to see what was going on, and you know, the feeling of unity at that point was
for
just
sure.
super impactful.
Yeah. I was in the shower actually when the plane hit because my wife ran into the bathroom. She's like, something is happening in New York. I'm like, at first I'm like,
That's
well, what do I care?
that's
You know,
normal.
like, she's like, no, like buildings are falling down, like blowing up or something. She didn't really like, and then I jump out and then it's just, you're consumed like all day.
Yeah.
Just, yeah. And there's something about that story, right? About where we were. There's things that when big life moments happen, those stories get imprinted on us.
Yeah.
Sure.
And it becomes this mechanism for us to pass that on, right? Because Elizabeth
Yeah.
wasn't even born yet,
It's so crazy.
right?
Yeah.
She was born in a post 9/11
Yeah.
age, and so for us to be able to have those experiences and pass them on to generations is really the heart of what this whole sermon was about. Kind of leads us into this next question. When has a story impacted your life? Tell us that story.
Well, I mean, one of the stories that was very impactful for me, as you mentioned, stories of my family's history. And it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but I think about it frequently. My grandfather ran a small farm, subsistence farm. That's his only job, was farming. And he had a relationship with a local 20 miles away hotel where he would provide them with pork. So in the morning, he'd go out and get a hog ready, and then throw it in the wagon and drive it up to Grand Rapids. And then by the time he got there and got it delivered, he was tired, you know, hardworking man. So he would start the team on their way, and he'd go in the back and take a nap, and the team would stop when they got to the barn. And I thought, that's really cool. You know, it's just something that I'm a big horse person. So stories of my dad's and grandpa's horse-powered farms were important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you, if you could, snap your fingers, go back to living a horse-powered farm life?
So
That seems really challenging to me.
in every case, I think we romanticize and fantasize how great it is, and we don't think about the work. I think every culture has something to teach us. I've had lots of time significant amount of time to spend with the Amish. I think every culture has something to teach us, but the life that I have now, I cherish, and certainly I would not go back to that life.
Yeah. But how cool is that to have family stories that can continue to be passed down and that do have that impact?
Yeah.
And that you can recall and you bring up. And yeah, of course, that answers it perfectly. What about you guys? Any story? And it doesn't have to be like, oh man, this changed my life. It could be like, man, I was watching this movie and I started crying because it was just so impactful.
Oh, that's me like every movie. I cry all the time.
I'd
say The Chosen.
brought it up.
Yeah, I'd say
Yeah,
The Chosen. Like, I've been watching that, and it's like, oh, that's cool. Like, it just...
Fill people in who don't know.
So The Chosen's about, like, the story of Jesus, where he picks the 12 disciples, and then, like, just the story of, like, because you don't really get the full story of the 12 disciples. Well, The Chosen, it does. Like, it shows Peter, John, and just everyone, and just you feel more connected on that movie of everyone. And then you're like, I don't know, you just get a favorite, and you're like rooting for that person. Like me, I like Peter because like you can relate to them too. Like you can you can relate to one of them. Like for me, I relate to Peter, and I was like, oh wow, that's like at least now I know like all the things like I'm not the only one that's struggling with everything that he was going through or anything like that. Like you can connect to, all right, if the 12 disciples have been through that struggle, so can we, and it's okay.
Right.
So.
And how cool is it to actually take a visual representation of things that we just read about in our
Yeah.
scripture?
Sure.
Yeah, that's cool. Do you have a story that impacted your life?
I can't think of one like right off the top of my head, but it's similar. My answer to this question is also kind of my answer from the last question because you skipped over me.
Oh, okay. Should we go back here? Let's go back.
No, it's okay.
What is your favorite
okay.
style of storytelling?
Well, okay, I'm gonna kind of just combine my answers. I am 100%. Reading stuff just means nothing to me. When I read something, I can read it 5 times, and I won't get the message behind it. I won't get anything behind it. Like I can't comprehend reading, and it's just it's not like I can't read, but like it's just like I just can't grasp what like the deeper meaning is. So like on all the like the SAT questions, like what is this supposed to mean? Like it was literally just a 25% chance that I was gonna get it right because I just can't get it. And so like I do struggle sometimes like reading my Bible because I'm just like I can't get it.
Yeah.
Like there are times when I'm like I can't get it, so like sometimes I try to like listen to it, and that helps because I'm like, oh, okay, like hearing things or like seeing things is just so much easier for my brain. It's just how I am as a person. And so then like Sunday mornings, I remember the last sermon that Josh did before he is now dead to us and moved.
Yeah,
Right.
we don't speak his
We
name.
don't, we don't speak his name. But I remember like there were just so many things like when he like walked out and stood on the chair, like I was just like sobbing, partially because I was sad that he was moving, but then it's just like hearing things that I could look at a page and just not be able to grasp, but then just seeing it, it's just so impactful for me because it's just like, oh, that's what I'm supposed to get from it.
Yeah.
And there are times when I feel really bad for like admitting that or saying that or like feeling that because I'm like I'm supposed to read I'm supposed to, but I just
Yeah.
can't.
No,
So,
God
like-
wires us all differently. And
Yeah.
what's cool about especially the technological age we live in now, we can consume God's word
Yeah.
in so many different ways. And that's a good plug for if you go to like the Bible app
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
if you go to our website, there's different resources. Go to Right Now Media. There's so many resources that are available that you can consume God's word in, other than just
Yeah.
opening it up and staring at a blank page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this.
Small groups, maybe.
Yeah. that
Small
too.
groups. There you go. Get
Yeah.
signed
Small
up for a
group?
small group.
Yeah, I have the same problem too. So I listen to James Earl Jones's Bible version.
I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
a little
get
Darth
Get
Vader.
the Darth Vader version, or
Awesome.
or
That is-
Mufasa.
All right, well, let's jump ahead. Dave talked about the idea of the world, right? He brought storytelling into how the world really does tell good stories, which they do. I mean, if you've seen
Yeah.
some of what Hollywood puts out, they're
Yeah,
just
sure.
amazing. But Dave gave us a good definition of the world. He said the world is people who organize life around something other than God. I've heard that term, the world, used so many different ways
Sure.
to justify either regulations, rules, or behavior. So, how have we heard the term the world either misused or maybe we had a different understanding of it before today?
I'd say like because people go, oh, you have the world or the Bible, like which life, like for what life choices, like the world accepts this, well, the Bible accepts that. So it's like, and then like there's some people they combine them together, like, oh, but this was from the Old Testament and the old ways where things change, and it's like it's still like we have the 10 Commandments, like those are the rules that we should go by, and so
Yeah, there can be some confusion when you try to merge them together.
And mine was more nebulous in terms of the world was the devil, people who are trying to influence me negatively, people who are trying to draw me away from Christ, the temptations of the world. You know, it was a big kind of a group thing, and this is much more specific.
Yes.
And I think having my brain works better with specifics. Very, very much. I work better with specifics, and that really helped me. It's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I know. Growing up in a much more fundamentalist kind of church environment, this term was used a lot. For instance, there were rules around don't go to the movies because that's of the world.
Yeah.
Women shouldn't wear pants because that's of the world, and all of a sudden there's the initial thought to say, hey, we should separate ourselves to try to be more holy, to try to be the people we want to be in God's image. All of a sudden, they started justifying certain behavior
Right.
under this term. And I love this definition because it is more specific. It's people who organize life around something other than God.
Yeah.
And that could be anything.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
Pharisaical, the other.
Yes.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Hey, can I back up?
Yeah, go for it.
Because you just reminded me of a story. You said, what story? And this is the one I should have picked. I'm growing up in a small Lutheran church, very small, and everybody knows everybody. And the Arndt family and the Genther family were the founders of the church. Mm-hmm. And I'm 10 years old, and I'm standing in the entryway with my mother. And a lady comes up to her and says, Carolyn, Walter let you wear slacks to church? And she said, he does not dictate what I wear. The strength of my mother. She just such a strong Christian, and I mean anything for her family, anything for her husband, very, very giving, very, very putting herself at last, but do not pretend that she's going to get walked on by anybody and not her husband. And I loved that. That was very impactful for me, that, you know, this is not the kind of world we live in. Mm-hmm. She's not having it.
That is awesome. I love that story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for pulling that out of the memory banks. Well, let's jump back into this definition of the world, because this is going to lead us into our final question this morning as we talk through what is something practical, because we love practicality. What is something practical that we can do to keep our life organized around God and not the world? Maybe it's something you currently do, but what is some advice? If you could give advice to people, what is something practically we can do?
I feel like the first thing for me, because I feel like this part, I mean, kind of called me out, just because, like, I get so, like, just overwhelmed, or I just focus so much on something that I'm like, oh, I haven't even, like, talked to God yet today, because it's just so much of the world, and so much of having, especially, like, a phone right at your hand. You can look up anything, or you can do whatever. It's like, oh, I gotta call this person, I gotta text this person, I gotta blah, blah, blah. There's so many things that just, like, you can just get so consumed in, and it's so easy to, and I feel like it's also so easy to then be like, oh, well, I really, like, messed up, and be, like, so hard on yourself that, like, yes, you have to work on it, but it's also, like, giving yourself grace to then try again, and just, like, starting small. Like, I feel like you just gotta, like, pray. Like, just start with, like, something. Start with something small that you can then add on to it, because it is so, like, it can be so hard when life is so busy.
Yeah.
Right.
To just, like, add, like, these little things. Or, like, have someone to, like, keep you accountable. They're like, well, like, hey, let's get coffee once a week and just, like, check in on how we're doing, pray together, whatever. Finding,
That's a great,
like, ways
another
to,
plug for those small groups.
Yes.
Yep.
Just finding ways to, like, that work for you, but then also, like, you don't also have to then just do everything at once, because that can be overwhelming and then feel like too much, and you, like, give up or any of that stuff.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people feel that way
Yeah.
when we see something that we want to change and we see the end result of where we want to be. All of a sudden, we're trying to get there too quickly.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's those small incremental steps that we need to take to help organize our life.
Yeah.
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 What else? Other thoughts?
Me, I try to I don't do things for me. I try to do things for God. For instance, today's my birthday. To me, I don't
Today's your birthday?
Yeah,
Wait,
yeah.
what?
Yeah. Thanks for reminding me.
Have we talked about it?
Yeah, that's why.
21?
That's why this is a perfect
21?
one. Yeah, I know it was funny when you walked by. You're like, "You're 25." I go, 31. But I wasn't gonna mention it because I don't really care because because if it's about me, I don't really care. I want to do things for other people or for God. So I don't want. It's not all about me. I'd rather do it. I'd rather be with other people. That's why I'm here because I want to help and support other people instead of myself. So
That's good. That's good. Any other thoughts?
Well, I mean, it's trivial, but on my phone, as you mentioned, Elizabeth, my lock screen and my home screen both have different passages to help me remember to have it in front of my face multiple times a day. And if I change those up every so often, then it doesn't become like I ignore it.
yeah.
So it's just a little
That's pretty
poke
cool.
every so often.
That's a great little piece of advice for people to do. Change your lock screen to have some really key passages and words of wisdom.
And you can have your Bible app give you notifications on what
Yeah.
the verse of the day is.
Yeah, that's what I do. That's actually.
They
for sure.
pick out a verse and then just
Yeah.
it'll
Yeah.
be right there.
Actually, I think the Bible app they can automatically change your wallpaper too. Every day it'll be that verse of the
Oh,
day.
seriously?
Yeah,
That's cool.
I didn't know that.
yeah.
That's good.
It's you have to Google how to do it, but yeah.
There you go. Google it.
Google
if you
it.
wanna,
Google it.
If you want to learn how to do it, just Google it.
Yep.
Google it. All right. Well, awesome discussion. We had a great Sunday this morning. We're going to continue on with this sermon series for the next couple of weeks as we continue to dig deeper into how we can impact the next generation. And we're excited you guys are here on this journey with us. Thanks for joining us. As always, if you have questions about anything that you heard this morning, or you just have questions in general, there's a couple of ways you can contact us. One, you can go to our website, my3c.org, and you can click Ask a Question. There you'll see a little box where you can put your question. Everything is anonymous, and we will get to the answers of those on Thursdays on our Q&A. Our Q&As have changed from Wednesdays to Thursdays because Dave is
Oh,
doing
snap.
his Connections Bible
Connections,
Institute on Wednesdays.
University.
Can't be in two places at the same time. So we're going to do Thursdays. He's going to do the Q&As. So Q&As on Thursdays. You can put your questions in the Ask a Question tab, and we'll get to them eventually as we keep chipping away at the questions that have been coming in. Or if you want to contact us directly and you want us to reach back out to you, you can always go to the Connect card, which is on our website as well, my3c.org. Fill that out, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Anybody have any final thoughts for today before we send them out?
I think it's not. Yeah, today's service wasn't the worst one you ever had. Actually, I think it was great. I
Good
loved
job,
it.
Dave.
Yeah.
There you go.
Not the worst one.
even
Yeah.
though that's how you said it was going to start, right?
Yeah.
Here is the worst sermon. No.
Yeah.
All right.
I loved it.
Good. All right. Well, if you're still with us, thanks for joining us. We will see you again next time. As always, we love you, and more importantly, Jesus loves you.
Yep.